Perfect. So let's get started. Hi everybody, this is Igor from the AngularJS team. I have Mishko with me here and Brad.
Hi guys.
How about we do a quick? How about we go through everybody and just do quick introductions? So we are the Angular team. You probably know all of us, but let's go through everybody else on the Hangout.
Maybe mention what you guys use Angular for.
Yeah.
So
Chris is first. Chris, can you hear us?
Yes, my mute is not working.
Well, we can hear you. Now we cannot hear you. Now your mute is working. We cannot hear you.
Why don't we go back to him and start with the black screen after him?
Okay. So we have another Chris Hiller.
Yeah, hi. I'm using Angular on a mobile web project here in Portland, Oregon, and just wanted to drop in and see some of the questions answered.
Cool.
Well, I guess I'm up next. I'm using Angular to do an HTML5 redesign of a commercial website called ClickBook, which is currently done in Flash. And I pretty much started just the beginning of this year, so I'm on the 1.0 and the bleeding edge, and whatever you guys are releasing, I'm using.
Perfect. How's it going so far?
So far, so good. I mean, there's still a learning curve, and part of my personal learning curve is figuring out how to test certain things, because I'm test-driven, and I'm trying very hard to make sure that all of our code has tests around it. But I find that once I've figured that out, then going forward is so much easier, and I'm sure that hopefully I'll be able to document this so that whoever comes after me and us in general will just know how to test this stuff.
Perfect. We have Dan.
Hi, I'm Dan Doyon. I'm a principal software engineer for Crescendo Bioscience in South San Francisco. Been part of the group since June, I think, of last year. And we actually had our first, we have a website called VectorView, which is an online ordering site for physicians, rheumatologists. And we just released something called Vector Analytics, which is using Angular 10.5. And we just released that last week.
Perfect.
So it's going well. And that's on a .NET platform.
Awesome. We have Darius.
So yeah, I'm an engineer with Turner Broadcasting, and also using Angular for an internal application right now that'll be pretty big, and we're liking it so far. We started out with pre-RC, but we've already moved up to 3, 4, or 5, using a lot of the resources and moving into directives. But pretty large application. Definitely like what we see so far.
Perfect. John.
Hey guys, John Lindquist. I'm using Angular to transition our Flex developers to all of a sudden become HTML developers. So been going good so far.
Thank you so much for all the videos. They're awesome.
They are awesome. My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Okay, Paul.
Hey guys, it's only 5 a.m. over here, so I'm half asleep. I actually consult for a company in the Bay Area, Monsoon Commerce. It's also in Portland. So we're working on probably a 2-year project. It's for helping sellers on Amazon, eBay, other sites, the pricing, sort of inventory management, that sort of stuff. We spiked practically everything going in the area of client-side JavaScript, and actually originally decided on get this knockback with Backbone and Knockout. And I had a late look again at Angular, I guess after the activity really ramped up early in the year, and the more I looked at it, the more I liked it, and eventually we decided to change. we're very happy with it.
Cool. We're happy to hear that. And this is Sean. You're on mute.
As I tried to unmute, Chrome threw a pop-up up on me and asked me to re-enter my password.
Oh.
Okay. So I'm using Angular for 2 apps for my client. They have a geolocation-based social network, kind of like a Grindr type app, if you guys know Grindr. And the first thing that I did was I built an admin console for them to find all the people who were sending inappropriate images and things like that. So they really wanted a really fast app that they could quickly go through all these reported abusers. And so we did that, and that's for internal use only. But we're starting on a new version of a web app for them that'll be customer facing using Angular. And then the other thing that I've been tinkering with just a little bit and thinking about is I'm the current maintainer of the IUI mobile framework, and I don't have a ton of time to put into it, and it's getting a little bit long in the tooth. But I was thinking of updating it to be kind of Angular friendly, and so it's a small framework, and it could use a lot of what Angular has, and it doesn't have much else to it, so it might actually be an interesting experiment. I'm not committed to doing that yet, but I'm pondering it.
Sounds very interesting.
And the other thing that I'm really interested in for both cases is animation, because the end user facing app that I'm doing for my client, they really want to have some transitions and whizzy stuff in it. And of course, if I'm going to integrate it with IUI, I have to do that as well. So that's an area that I have interest in.
Okay. So the next one is Vojta.
Hey guys, I'm Vojta. I'm currently on vacation in Czech Republic, and I haven't built any serious applications with Angular yet, but I hope I will one day. I should.
So those who are not familiar, Vojta is part of the core team. So let's go back to Chris. Hope you figure out the mute situation.
I think it worked. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I was running a whole bunch of virtual machines in the background. I think it was killing Google Talk. So I heard Mishko speak at JSConf in Portland about a year ago, and just was blown away by Angular. And so I've been playing with it for the last year. Mostly what I'm trying to do is just build a whole bunch of mobile apps with it. On top of things like jQuery mobile and PhoneGap and things like that. And I'm also really excited about the testability of it. So I've been playing a lot with Phantom.js and just Jasmine and things like that. So.
Perfect. Okay, so let's go to our agenda. So I have a document that I shared already with you. There are just a few points that I want to talk about. And then we have lots of questions that we received that we're going to try to answer. And we're also going to give you some space for live questions, so get your questions ready. And also feel free to stop us at any time if you have questions about things we're going to be discussing. Just let us know that you have some questions. So let's get started. 1.0, almost there. I know it's hard to believe, we can't believe it, but there aren't that many things left on our list, and some of the main ones are the site. We really want to launch the new site. You probably saw the new site already. If you haven't, just go to the mailing list and search. There's a long thread with a very good discussion about the site. So hopefully this is going to happen this week. Mishko's almost done with the last changes. We're getting it ready to launch on the IE2, which is always a challenge. But yeah, that's going to happen this week. Then we have a tutorial update, which I'm working on, and I'm almost halfway done. So I don't think it's going to be done this week, but we're going to cut another release this week, and that release will contain another few steps that are going to be updated with the latest stuff. But it's not that much work left there. So then we have the API docs, which we're going to reskin to match something similar to the website, and do some usability improvements because the API docs are kind of hard to use if you don't know what you're looking for, and it's hard to navigate and search for the right thing if you don't know if you're looking for. If the page you're looking at is directives, it's service, it's difficult. If you have any suggestions there, feel free to just either tell us now or drop an email to the mailing list. We definitely want to make some big improvements there. Next step will be killing docs next and migrating over to docs. So finally, we are not going to have people on the mailing list asking questions about the 0919 version, which is so obsolete. But this is going to get done probably this week or next week, we'll see. One of the last features that it's going to make it into 1.0 is route change cancellation, which is something that many of you asked for. So let's say I'm on a page, I have a form, and user can click anywhere and can navigate away, but by doing so, he would lose all the changes on the form. So we need a way of being able to cancel route navigation, or please give a user a choice. Do you really want to navigate away and lose all these changes, or do you want to abort this route change? So that's one of the last few features that's going to make it in. And then just bug fixes. You guys have been great with reporting all kinds of issues that we never thought of. And if you use jsfiddle to demonstrate the issue, it's really good, and because it helps us by seeing the issue right away instead of spending a lot of time debugging and trying to reproduce your environment in your application. So if we have a small use case, we can fix bugs quite quickly. So please keep on doing that. We definitely want to get all these edge cases fixed and everything working as smoothly as possible. And that's about it. Once all these things are done, 1.0 will go out and we're going to celebrate. Anybody has any questions about this?
Do you plan on redoing the resource implementation? I know there's been a lot of talk on you're not happy with it.
Talk about that. Yeah, so I've attempted to redo the resource, mainly to incorporate features and make it simpler. I've made good progress, but then I realized that it's not good enough. And so we kind of decided to put it on the back burner and just focus on getting 1.0 out. We broke the resource out into a separate module. So we'll probably upgrade the module once the 1.0 is out. So for now, it's on hold.
We actually created like 3 different implementations of resource and resource service, and none of them was quite what we wanted it to be. So we decided to just go for 1.0, make this extra module, and solve the problem after 1.0.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And so I know that we're not, we've just reached 1.0, so I don't expect there to be backwards compatibility, but one of the things that was a little confusing for me was, like, for example, would Angular.service be backwards compatible if I can still use that, or if I need to switch? So if I could just put in a word for communicating whether there'll be backwards compatibility on those type of things or not.
Backwards compatibility between 0.9 and 1.0?
Exactly, yeah. And I don't expect that because it's changing, but I've been trying to wrap my head around the new Angular resource and factory and modules implementation, especially like trying to figure out, I like to break things up, and the thing that appealed to me about Angular was that I could break things into separate controllers. So I was typically having like a services file and then injecting those services into my controllers, and then I think I wasn't quite clear on how like Angular.modules worked and where I would need to declare the first Angular modules line, and it's complicated for me because I'm using CoffeeScript and there's some scope issues. But anyway, just
so if you look at Angular Seed, you'll see how you can break your applications into modules and put the modules into different files. You can even have one file and multiple modules, one module in multiple files, that works too. So we should, I don't know if it would help to show more examples of how to use this stuff, but it's definitely possible. When it comes to backwards compatibility, we are not going to have any kind of layer that would make 0.9 applications work with 1.0. What we will have is a document that will just contain all the major changes that happen between 0.9 and 1.0. So it's going to be like a digest of the changelog, basically. That should help a lot with the migration of applications. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I know it's a state of flux, and so it's great, but that was something that has been a little bit hard for me at Grok, and I think that's because the resources are at the very end of the tutorial, which hasn't been updated yet. So it's I'm okay with it, but so.
Okay. Any other questions?
I had a question regarding how these new namespace modules are going to be versioned. Is that going to be like just like a sort of the seed for a separate contrib project, or for those people who want to keep the old resource service the way it is? Will that be sort of available there, and then there'll be another one that maybe it's a Ruby resource flavor?
Right. So are you talking about the
NG resource
experiment with the resources?
Yeah. I think what he's asking is that if we come up with a new resource, will he still be able to use the old one because for whatever reason it's difficult for them to migrate? I think the answer is yes, but we won't test it. I don't think we're going to have a continuous build, which will be actively testing to make sure that the latest version still works with the older one. But in theory, you should be able to do that.
Well, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but for now, all the modules are being built and tested with the Angular core. So for now, everything's good. When we do have the new resource, we can figure out if it's worth maintaining the old resource module and just keeping it in the source base and running the CI build on it. It's an option. It's a good option. Yeah. We can discuss it when we have the new resource, and then we can address this. Okay.
It was to switch to the questions, the formal questions.
Oh no, have we gone with the next section? Can the community help?
Yeah. So we would like to talk a bit about how the community could help us, and I already mentioned that testing the RC builds and reporting bugs has been extremely helpful. Because you often see use cases that we haven't thought of, or come across these weird browser inconsistencies that we haven't seen yet. So it's really useful if you use the RC builds and report bugs as soon as you see them, and especially with jsfiddle, that's super good. The other thing that how you can get involved and help is by sending pull requests with either bug fixes or documentation content fixes. Many of you have done that recently, and it's great. There's a few that we need to merge in, but for the most part, we are happy to merge small bug fixes and documentation fixes. That's awesome. Mailing list. Mailing list, as you've probably seen, it's just getting crazy. Like, we grow by the factor of 2 every month. So if we see you helping other people with their questions, especially people who are just new to Angular and they have bigger kind of questions that all of you can answer, it's so helpful when you just drop an email and reply. It's great. Then we have more time to address issues that probably you have and you cannot fix yourself. And lastly, helping by spreading the word through blog posts and screencasts, podcasts, doing meetups or presentations. That's great. We really appreciate that. And if you could do any of these, drop us an email, send us a link, and we'll send you a T-shirt. We really appreciate it.
Or if there's any other way we can support you doing these things, we'd really like to help.
Yeah.
If you're going to go do a meetup and want to give away some Angular T-shirts, let us know. We can do that for you too.
We'll send you a box. Angular launch plan. So this is one of the top questions in the Q&A. So I thought that we could just address it as part of the agenda. So what do we want to do for 1.0 and how we want to make it successful and how you can help. So how you can help is with going to Reddit, Hacker News, Dig, Slashdot, you name it, and just telling everybody that Angular has launched and it's the most awesome thing that you've ever seen, and that helps a lot. Then the second thing is we want to start doing meetups here in the Bay Area on the Google campus, and there also has been interest in the New York City meetup, which we're going to organize as well, and we have some Googlers that sign up, and they're going to help organize that. So if there's anybody else that wants to run a meetup in some other location, let us know. We'll try to put you in touch with somebody from a local Google office if there's any nearby, and we'll try to organize something. And if you just want to come over and have a pizza or some food and listen to us, or come ask questions, show your application. Once we announce when and where the meetups are going to happen, we'll be happy to see you over here. We are probably also going to broadcast this online, so if you can't come, you'll be able to join online. We're going to utilize some of the Google power and publish the announcement on the Google Developer blog, which is a good avenue to reach my developers. And we're also going to talk to the Chrome Dev relationship team, and we're hoping that we're going to get some interest on their side, and they're going to help us spread the news. We definitely don't want to force them to like Angular, but we hope that once they understand and see Angular, they will be happy to evangelize and help us spread the word. Any questions?
I just had sort of a comment. Sorry. One of the things I think that really people liked and latched onto were the to-do list being done in Angular and the other applications, the little sample applications. I think that goes over quite well with people. They get it, and when they see the more elegant way of doing things, they sort of appreciate Angular better. That when I looked at all the different to-do versions and compared it with the one that Christophe did, I mean, it really shows and shines through. So if we could do more of those type of applications, I think that people will definitely think twice about going to the other frameworks.
Yeah, and the new website is definitely done in a way that would show off many of these things in a very small chunks, easy to digest chunks. So we're going to show off, how you can do data binding, how you can build directives and reusable components with directives, how awesome dependency injection is, and all this kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that the new website is going to help. What I didn't mention is that we're gonna have John help us a lot by recording. John Lindquist. He's done several really awesome videos, and we like him so much that we are flying him over here to help us record more of the videos.
Nice.
So that's going to happen next week. John's going to, I think it's next week, right?
Yeah, end of next week.
Yeah, I think it's next week. So John's going to come here, and we're going to record more screencasts and show off more of the goodness. Yeah.
So please take a look at that new homepage and let us know what's missing. Because I think you're right. People should see live code and feel it for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think any other public APIs there are other than Twitter. I guess we could do some Flickr ones or something, but...
Well, Google has a whole set of APIs.
Oh, okay. I mean,
GitHub.
any sort of interest we can do.
GitHub
okay.
API is nice for a couple reasons.
So yeah, some good demo apps would be fun.
One of the nice things about GitHub is it's easy to enable, what do you call it, CORS with GitHub. Yeah, so it's good for demos that way.
Cool. Yeah, I'll start playing around with those and seeing. I love making those little demo apps, and I mean you can make them in 10 minutes, so it's not. Angular lets you work so fast.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, that's everything that I had on my list. How about you? Do you have any questions that you would like to ask right now?
I've got one. Could you three
guys?
guys?
There's been a lot of questions on the mobile side.
Sean, go first, and then we'll go to.
Mine's quick. Could you three guys in the same frame reintroduce yourself so I can know who's who?
Okay.
Okay, I am Mishko Hebry. What am I known for? I guess I kind of originally started Angular.
This whole thing is your fault.
This whole thing is my fault. There you go. That's what you need to know.
So I'm Igor Minar. I joined Mishko about 1 year into the project or so.
Something like that.
Yeah. So I've been working on Angular for the last year and a half as the core developer and trying to make some sense out of all the craziness that Mishko created.
That's right. And I'm Brad Green. I'm the eng manager for these guys.
He's the one with the whip.
Yes. If they're not whipped enough, it's my fault.
So those 2 a.m. emails coming from you, Igor, are because of Brad?
No, that's because of my 2-month-old baby.
Okay, good. Next.
So we have Vojta. We should also.
Vojta's asleep. Moving on.
No, I'm not asleep. I'm actually lying on a bed, but I'm not asleep. Yeah, I think I've been working on Angular last year or so. Yeah, I think yeah. My name is Vojta, and I've been working on Angular last year. I think that's all you need to know.
And it's been the best 1 year of your life, right?
For sure. I mean, I like California.
Come on. Okay, Darius, you had a question?
Yeah, I guess this is going back to one of the posted questions as well. What about the plans as far as mobile integration or any topic support for that? Do you have any plans to just support the existing adapter out there, or is it going to be something more official coming down the line?
So for now, we haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to the mobile space, not because we don't want to, but because there are so many internal customers that we have here at Google that use Angular primarily for the desktop use cases, and those are the customers that we need to primarily support. But we definitely keep an eye on the mobile space, and any of the design choices that we make are done with the mobile in mind. There is the Angular jQuery mobile adapter, which is doing quite well, and I've seen quite a few people use it. But what we need to do is get more engaged with people who maintain like this jQuery mobile adapter, and there's also the effort to create Angular UI components. So we definitely plan to get more engaged in these efforts and give some more official support to these efforts. But it's going to happen post 1.0. Been really trying hard to get 1.0 out.
Should we move to the moderator, or?
Any other live questions?
I have a question.
Let's go.
Okay.
I was just going to say, there's a bunch of stuff that these people have already asked these questions, right?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, but go ahead.
Go ahead. Last question.
This is an ugly question. I'm constantly getting stuff that's written in jQuery and then trying to add Angular to it. And there's a need to kind of have a, what am I missing? There's a need to kind of have a, yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, I can see myself. Thanks. I'm trying to ask a serious question though. For him, So there's a constant need to like sort of be able to support jQuery plugins that need to modify the DOM, and that I want to put Angular in, and so it's like I need an Angular callback or to know when Angular is finished modifying the DOM, so that then maybe jQuery, and it's horrible because you really shouldn't be mixing these two together if you can avoid it, but unfortunately because of legacy code, I'm wondering if there's like a callback that I'm missing when Angular's done modifying the DOM, so that I can then go and say, okay, now jQuery can go and attack.
So this is quite tricky because Angular's never done modifying the DOM. The whole DOM manipulation is a continuous process. We monitor the model mutations, and as they happen, we update the DOM. But having said that, there are many plugins. I don't know which plugins I'm referring to, but most of them are quite trivial to integrate with Angular if you understand how it all works. And maybe we should do a better job of showing more examples.
Well, I did update the jQuery UI drag and drop, so I've done it once, so I know it's possible. It's just sometimes I'm getting code from other developers who are doing things in jQuery, and I don't want the task of having to update every single one of them just to incorporate. And then what happens is the manager sees it and goes, oh, that looks cool, so we want that functionality, and then suddenly it becomes, because somebody else was able to develop it really quickly, suddenly it's, the task is now on me to update it to work with Angular. So and that's sort of what happens.
So,
it's like, oh yeah, can incorporate that.
I spent a little bit of time thinking about that. And one crazy idea I have had, but I haven't gotten a chance to implement it, is to kind of intercept all the operations that jQuery does, since we are so tied to jQuery anyways. And that would basically give us insight into when jQuery does DOM manipulation, so that we can post-process all these DOM manipulation and add data binding. In theory, what that would mean is that many of the jQuery widgets, plugins, whatever you call them, should automatically work out of the box with data binding. But unfortunately, this is just a crazy idea in my head, and I haven't gotten to it, and it's probably something when I visit post 1.0. So.
Well, I'm glad to hear that somebody's thinking about it, and like I said, I know that it's really a bad mix, because you've got two different frameworks that both want to modify the DOM and don't necessarily know about what each other is doing.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad mix, because we could leverage a huge. jQuery is a huge community, and if you could just work out of the box, it's a great thing to leverage.
Oh yeah.
I have crazy thoughts, haven't gotten to it.
Yeah, that's been my biggest issue using Angular, is the exact same thing. The client says, oh, throw in this jQuery effect here, and when you're learning and you're not comfortable working inside the compiler and writing widgets, I joked with my client. There was one thing that we did in Angular that should have taken 2 days and took 2 hours, and that was doing some table management. But putting in a little bit of one of the jQuery effects somewhere, should have taken 2 hours and took 2 days for me, because I had to go through some learning curve. So that's probably I haven't looked at the documentation in the last couple weeks, but that's been the hardest thing for me to figure out about Angular as I've been using it.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, many people have a hard time understanding that DOM manipulation should really happen through directives and not in controller. Like, many people are still in the mindset where it's okay to mix the business logics and the DOM manipulation. And yeah, you can do some stuff quickly, but it's a maintainability issue. And if you figure out how to use directives properly, the work becomes not only better structured but also reusable. So if you want to use the same effect somewhere else, you just drop in this directive and that's it.
But this is our fault, not your fault. Thanks for raising it for us.
Yes. And with the new compiler that was launched with RC1, we think that many of the jQuery UI integrations should be smoother now because of some changes we made internally in the compiler. So if you have issues with some particular plugin, just let us know and we'll try to help you.
So 2 to-dos around this. We will investigate just magically integrating with jQuery. That'd be awesome. The other is improve our doc, so it's just obvious about how to do this stuff.
Sounds good.
Moderator.
Okay, moderator questions.
There you go.
Do you have any major internal customers that are using Angular or planning on it?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
We will tell you all about them as they launch. Shouldn't be too long.
Yeah, that's probably as much as we can tell right now. But some really, really exciting stuff is happening, and give us a few more weeks, and we should have some news for you.
Yeah, that'll be great to hear. I'm tasked with selling frameworks to clients, and I need something to back me up rather than it's a great development framework.
Okay, so let's go to the moderator questions. The top one is, what is the roadmap for modules? Any plans for a module loader and module build system? What about using AMD modules and AMD loaders like require.js? Mishko.
Me? Okay. I thought you were going to do that. Okay.
By the way, we think this is talking about JavaScript modules and not Angular modules.
Yes, right.
Correct us if we're interpreting that wrong.
Yes. So Angular also uses the term module, but it has a different meaning. But I think this is purely about the open source community module system. Not sure what exactly.
Okay, so
it should work with the modules, but the tricky part is, the purpose of AMDs or modules is to load things asynchronously, right? And also to load them on an as-needed basis. And all these things should work. The trouble becomes, what happens when you want to load, for example, a controller or a service at a later point in time. There's no way to kind of integrate back into the dependency injection framework system. So I think that's kind of what the question is really asking. Again, we have some crazy ideas on how to attack that. So far, basically, we haven't had the need to break the application into pieces, mainly because the improvements in productivity we get out of Angular are sufficient that even the big apps are still manageable in single download.
But for mobile, we know this is a problem.
But for mobile, this is a problem. And as I mentioned, we are thinking about ways to allow adding code dynamically once you visit a particular route, put that route and say, oh, also go and fetch some extra JavaScript code, which could be loaded through a module loading system like require.js.
Right. So the short answer is that today you can use require.js with Angular for dependency management and getting the order of files right. It gets tricky when you start lazy loading code and do code splitting, and we have some work to do there. If you have any questions about this or comments, jump in. Now I'm going to move to the next question. So what are the best practices for building web apps with Angular? How do you distribute code? Logic goes into services, DOM manipulation to directives. Right, so Angular already gives you this kind of structure that tells you how to break down the application into small pieces. As was mentioned, the business logic typically goes into the controller or the model, since the model can be as rich as you want it to be. A lot of the business logic can be in the model. Services usually contain functionality that is long-lived and helps controllers and models get stuff done. And DOM manipulation is done through the directives. So that's the breakdown within the Angular application. When it comes to distribution of the code, it's really application specific, and it often very much depends on the backend you use. So if you're using Rails, for example, Rails has its own asset pipeline, which you can easily integrate with and have all your JavaScript files be minified and concatenated and use it by Rails. So you can leverage that. If you have a custom backend written in Java, as is often the case here at Google, people do their own stuff. They have build scripts that just create concatenated files. They run it through the code compiler. Typically, what we see in larger projects, they have two different builds. They have a developer build and a production build. And the developer build, they really optimize for the instantaneous development. So everybody wants to be able to just make a small change, save it, go to the browser, refresh, and see the change happen. Nobody wants to compile stuff. Nobody wants to do any kinds of tricks to see the change in the browser. So especially the bigger applications, they have a more sophisticated setup, which allows them to do this kind of stuff where they just develop very quickly, and when they commit stuff, it goes to the continuous integration server, and there are scripts that will just munch all the JavaScript files and get it ready for deployment in production. So I don't know what else to say to this. Anybody has any stories, any kind of advices from production?
I think part of the answer is like we need some examples. Part of the seed framework should include this on a couple platforms. We need to make it easier for you guys to just do it and not have to figure things out. Maybe.
Well, we definitely encourage people to concatenate and minify files and deploy stuff with gzip compression. It makes a huge difference for startup of the application and the user experience. So we definitely encourage that. And yeah, we should build that into seed so that there's at least one example of how to do it.
Yeah, I'd love to see an example of persistence or integration with the server backend, either Rails or Node or something else that's common in the field. I would say Java, but I haven't been doing that lately myself.
Maybe this is something that the community could help. We get only so much exposure to all these backend frameworks. It's usually done through us going to some team that uses Rails or uses some kind of other technology, and we help them get stuff done. But you guys, you work with Rails day to day. You know it in and out. You know better the best practices and the integration points. So if somebody wants to step up and say, hey, I'm gonna maintain the Rails build or
and one of you was using ASP, that would be an awesome backend to highlight. But we would love to make you guys famous if we can. With some of these, like if you want to make a copy of seed and make it on a different backend, it would be awesome.
Sure. Or Rails has plugins and other backends have other ways of getting extra functionality into the framework. So if you guys want to maintain these things, we'll be happy to support you.
I've been using Rails a lot with Angular, and I have figured out the ways that I need to do. Like for example, the jQuery mobile adapter requires very specific loading of the adapter and Angular in order to minimize properly. It works great in development mode, but not in production mode, and I finally feel like I've gotten my head around that. So Mishko, if you want a note on your note and maybe send an email to the list or something, I don't know how to coordinate that. I mean, I could start it myself, but I don't know if I'm necessarily the right person to do it and where to put it and where you want the repository.
Send an email to the mailing list, and maybe a bunch of people get together and can together maintain whatever the integration is.
I could do that. I think it seems like from my perspective, it'd be better to have Angular say we want to have the Angular team to say we want to have 6 different repositories with Rails, with Grails, with that. I mean, if you guys, I think it'd be better for you guys to say you want this, and who wants to step up than for me to build something and some other person to do it in a random place. But I'm happy to do it. I just worry that it might get lost and might get cluttered. I think there's been a lot of things changing. I think it'd be
good point. Why don't we make the space for those to happen, and then hopefully we can get folks to step up and fill it.
And one last question I actually have about minification is I've been a little bit confused about whether the inject syntax has changed because of the module, the Angular module. Like, for example, if I declare Angular module some name and then I include, I'm not sure how to term this, include ng resource, then do I still have to give the inject hash at the end of that, like I did with services, for example, to minimize properly. There's a few clarifications I'd like in the documentation if you could just make sure to add that, because I'm a little...
Yes, that's actually already in the works.
Okay, great.
And we've written a whole bunch of these documents. I'll add a link to it for you. Unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to push it into master yet, but I'll add a link to the notes section.
The quick answer is that with the module system, you still need to specify the strings as identifiers for minification purposes, because once the minifier goes through the code, anything that is not a string will be minified, and we depend on the string to figure out, which service to inject. So there are multiple syntaxes how to specify the dependencies, and we'll just send an email with the links after the Hangout so that you can read up on that. But yeah, if you are minifying, then you still need to specify the strings. Okay, next question. How are you going to deal with the lack of examples in the documentation? Would you be open to a wiki approach where a community can contribute to it? Well, honestly, I think we have quite a few examples in our documentation. Like, I don't know if lack is really the best.
Hey, if our users perceive it as a lack, it's a lack.
If the patient says he's sick,
that's right. But I think we could use some more specifics here. So if you guys can tell us specific places where you'd like to see more examples, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, examples of what are you missing? And we are definitely interested in showing and adding examples where they're missing. The wiki approach, the reason why the examples are built the way they are right now is so that we can automatically test them. So they're part of the core source base, and whenever we create a build of Angular, all the examples are part of the build, and they actually run on our continuous integration server, so that anytime we break an example, we know about it and we can fix it. And that was something that has really worked well for us in the past year and a half or so. In the past, we didn't have this, and we had many obsolete examples.
That's true. So you're guaranteed all the examples run. Now, the real answer is all of the website is checked in on GitHub, and anybody could make a pull request with an example as long as there's a test with it. So yes, please, we would love that. But we had another idea too.
So there was an idea using jsfiddle. So if you create a really cool example for some kind of some part of the API, and post it as a comment on the website, then we are going to try to incorporate it in the documentation. So there you have it. I don't think that the free wiki approach is going to work quite well for us, just because we really want to test everything and make sure that all the examples work.
I think the new homepage examples you put up are a great start. Those and breaking them up into beginner, intermediate, and advanced type of thing is a really good thing. Those really read well, and having the test backing it, and I would love to see to be able to pull down the full testing framework with an example, and then be able to add in other examples into that. So the seed is kind of the start of that. But I've been kind of struggling with just making even existing tests work. Like one of the tests was had like a button in it, and I could not get Jasmine to see the button. And I tried different browsers and everything, and I wasn't sure whether I was doing something wrong or not. But to be able to, out of the box, pull down sample code with running tests right from the website, for me would be a great thing.
And I just want to add that similarly, I was hoping to be able to. I had that hack that I'd done to put Jasmine tests in jsfiddles, and I mentioned on the discussion group the concept of being able to actually have in the documentation the ability to run the tests by hitting a button. Since most of these tests are just Jasmine tests, so they can run online. So you could actually, your examples of your tests are literally executable.
Maybe. Just to correct you, they are not Jasmine tests. They are the scenario tests, end-to-end tests.
Oh, right.
They use
Jasmine on a JSfiddle would be useful.
Yeah. But we don't. I'm just saying that we don't have any tests. Unit tests. Okay. Good idea.
I know one thing that would be helpful for us is more documentation around directives. I know you have some good documentation in now, but maybe some beginner, intermediate, advanced type directives as well. Because I know that's like the majority of the stuff that we write is going to be directives. I mean, you have your business logic, but all of your reusable stuff is.
Yeah, we want directives to be used a lot more than they are, and it's not clear.
I think John will help us a lot with this. When he comes over, we're going to record several videos about directives. So hopefully that will help a lot.
And improve the doc, because there's a lot of different options and things to do inside directives. Yeah, good. We'll do it. Next question.
Next question. Can you discuss how to make running tests on Angular projects even easier? That was for documentation. This is for projects. So how to make running tests easier? Angular Seed is a good start, but it's not good enough. So this has been discussed a bit on the mailing list, and we think that the long-term answer will be Testacular, which is a project that Vojta started. It's a test runner, which is very similar to JSDD, but a lot more awesome.
Stable,
and doesn't have that many features yet, but we use it, and it's just great. So with testing, really the setup is the hardest part, and I think having a good test runner will help a lot. So if anybody has any other ideas, we can set up a separate discussion on this and just have a hangout dedicated just to testing and ideas how to make it easier. But we definitely are interested in making testing easier because we think that testing is very, very important.
I think that one of the challenges is that, at least for me, like testing JS is very new. Like I've always wanted to do that, and I've looked at Jasmine and the precursors of that for a long time. So I'm not even sure, and I'm coming from a slightly different place, I think, than using Rails, and you guys are probably using some different server-side frameworks. But even if you guys maybe were to document, here's my setup. I started with this fresh install. I'm running OS X. I'm then installing this. I'm then installing this. That might be helpful because I'm just sort of unclear how to start. I know how to write a test, but it's like getting all the other things set up. And I've looked at Testacular, and I want to use a headless one if possible. So I've been playing more with Phantom.js. But having you guys start with that, even not necessarily instructions, but even just here are the steps that I went through to set it up on my machine might be helpful.
Have you seen the Angular Seed project? Because it has JS test driver set up, pre-configured with some example tests running. There are shell scripts for Windows and Linux and Mac. If you haven't seen it, definitely start there because that project has everything set up. So you just run 2 shell scripts and capture browser, and you're ready to go. It's not headless testing. We don't do that much headless testing because there are still, especially if you go into the DOM manipulation world, there are many browser inconsistencies. So it's not that common that you want to test without browsers. But one of the things we do want to have in Testacular is the headless testing. So if you really want that, it should be there in the future.
Has the Angular Seed been updated and released to match?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is for branch or is it on master?
It's on master. So with every release, I make sure that Angular Seed is up to date. Okay. It's almost 3 o'clock here, so I think I'm just gonna ask you guys any last question from you guys. Nope. Okay, so I think we're going to finish. I'll go through the rest of the questions on the moderator, and If there's anything very interesting, then I'll answer it on the mailing list. Thanks so much for joining, and I hope to see you on the mailing list and in the future on the next Hangout. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.